Well, I feel so good after this conversation with Gina and Lennon Torres. I met them years ago, casting for Dance Moms, and fell in love with them then, not just because they're from Arizona, where I'm from, but just because of their boldness. And this conversation is so great, hearing about Lennon's journey as a transgender woman and Gina's journey as a mother. And I'm super excited to share, one of the key things that I learned from Lennon was when she said, when you have your why, the how becomes more clear. And I think that's so important for all of us. So let's sit back and listen to these powerful women talk about their why. Okay, here I am with Lennon and Dance Mom Gina.
Hello.
Say hello.
Hello.
I can't believe we got her to do this.
No.
She hasn't done anything in years.
I know. When was the last interview you did?
I don't even know the last
Probably
interview.
10 years.
Yeah.
A decade, everyone.
Yeah.
A decade. Wow, a lot has
Nobody wants
transformed, changed in a decade. Well, I want you both to know I sit here very humbly before you both. Seriously, thank you for coming and giving of your time to have this meaningful conversation. So that's what this is about. Like I said before, this is a safe space. We can be messy. My whole thing is to be a safe place to have meaningful conversations. So to break the ice, not that there's not even ice in that drink. I don't think, Gina. That's impressive.
I'm telling you, there's ice. Hear it?
Oh, there is. Okay. I didn't think there was ice. I was like, wow, that's just like straight
up.
Casamigos.
It's tequila on the rock.
Oh.
It's the only way to do it.
Look at that.
Could we be any more?
in the pot.
I can't. We're just twinsies.
So this is something good to start on because obviously someone like me, I knew you as Zachary, and now I know you as Lennon. What would be advice to someone like me in embracing that and honoring that, but as well as honoring Lennon? Because I think for me, I can feel a little sensitive to that, and I don't want to hurt you. So how would I go about and embracing that and talking about that time of our lives?
Yeah, great place to start. We're jumping right on in. I always say that, like, I'm pretty vocal about, like, of always connecting to my past self a little bit. I mean, I've always been myself, and I've been really lucky to grow up in a family and an environment where I did feel supported. And I think because of that, every step of my growth, every step of my childhood, I was really honest about who I was. I mean, in high school, I wanted to paint my nails, so I started painting my nails. I started wearing makeup junior year of high school. I started dressing more feminine in high school. I was feminine in middle school. And so I feel like I always say that Lennon was always me, and Zachary will always be a part of me. I don't view it as a thing like some people do. And I think that is like a misconception among gender nonconforming, genderqueer individuals, is that there's this transition. And I always say that, we're all growing and developing. And so it's not that I was once this person and am now this person. I just grew up into who I was supposed to be. So I would say that.
And I think, I don't know, maybe, or John, are you asking how to address her as, when she was a child in Dance Moms, or?
That as well too. Yes. That's a part of it as well.
I just kind of felt like he was like, how do I address you
Yeah, I think that's a great question.
Lennon.
I think it's like, how do we talk about this at the beginning of this conversation? If we're getting granular, I would say that, trans people were always themselves. So I always say, like, little Lennon. I call myself by my name during Like, Lennon was on Dance Moms when she was a kid,
That's
like
what I
all
said.
of the affirming pronouns and names. But yeah, I don't ever blame anyone who doesn't know that. It's kind of a different kind of conversation to have. And so I would say that, always use the affirming pronouns unless you're, making a specific statement about my name being Zachary or something like that. But I would say pretty much always use just the affirming name and pronoun. And for people that don't know that or didn't know that, now. So, you just hop on and get moving. So,
So I can say little Lennon. I like that. Is that okay?
Yeah, do it.
Okay. So little Lennon. So because you sent a picture of little Lennon and your mom 10, 12 years ago, and I actually was surprised by that because I don't know why. Maybe I felt you were embracing that part of yourself. So when you say part, because I love parts, I mean, we all have different parts of ourselves. At least I think we all do, not to sound crazy, like we're these multiple personalities, but we have the unhinged side, right? Dance Mom Gina.
We do.
We have the scaredy cat side. I definitely struggle with that at times. We have all these different parts. So it sounds as though little Lennon is not a bad part.
No. I feel like she's really good about not being fussy over a picture of her, 10, 12 years ago, 5 years ago, whatever. Like, I feel like you're good about sharing those things.
I think for other people, that is a trigger. It is, yeah. It can be a real trigger to look at photos before you were embracing your full self for a lot of trans people. But for me, it's always, I don't know. I feel like I always was myself, know, I didn't live in the closet for a lot of years. Were you going to laugh?
I'm not laughing. I'm just saying I had a lot of closets.
Yeah, we had a lot of closets. I came out 3 times. I came out as gay in high school, non-binary in college, and trans in grad school. And it was one of those, thank you. It was one of those things that, when I figured it out, I was ready to share. There was never, not necessarily a holding pattern. And I see that as a really big privilege because a lot of people do have to keep that to themselves and hide who they are for many reasons: safety, financial, social circumstances, relationships. And so for me, I didn't have that. I was always really supported by my mom and my dad and by my younger sister. And I feel really protected, and I always have. And so I think that's why I was able to come out so many times. But
I definitely want to get to that too. I didn't want to, I kind of did want to move in quickly, but I don't want to go there too much. I want to be gentle. So now I know how to go little Lennon.
Just said no gentle.
So with that, what?
No gentle. You don't have to be gentle.
I don't have to be, but I love to be gentle.
So, who you are.
That's where I'm at these days, because on that, what I was going to say is that, especially right now, there's a lot of suffering going on. I mean, intense suffering in the transgender community, gay community, overseas, everywhere.
Mm.
And so that's why I definitely want to talk about suffering and how to help people out of this suffering. I think even with Dance Moms showcasing a world that was magical and beautiful, and Dance Moms isn't on, but that world is still there. I still teach and still go to these dance competitions, and there's a lot of magic in it, but there's still a lot of suffering in it. So to talk about stuff like that, so to kind of ground us, thought this would kind of be fun. Don't worry, it's not a drinking game. That would be more fun. That would probably be more fun. No, so I just wanted to add, well, I'll start the game. So how am I feeling? Well, I'm feeling super excited to be talking to you. And I'm feeling sad about the suffering that is going on right now. I think for me, one, you didn't even notice my hat.
I know you can't see it because the brim is up. It was up. Is it Diamondbacks?
No, it says AZ State Fair 23.
Arizona State Fair 2023. I wore it just for you all.
I love it.
My whole point is I was just there because my mom unfortunately had a stroke about a month and a half ago, my dance mom. So that's been super challenging for me. So just to kind of be looking at meaningful lives and suffering that goes on. So the question is how are you feeling? That's how I'm feeling. So how are you feeling, Lennon, right now in this moment about this conversation?
I'm feeling very ready for it. I think I insinuated this in my emails, and we've seen each other a couple times over the past couple years, and I think I feel very empowered to say how I actually feel. And yeah, I won't get too flowery because I'm sure you have more questions, but yeah, I feel empowered, and I feel ready to share. And I also just feel anxious, I'll be honest. I haven't done an interview with my mom in
I know it's been
forever, so it's like a little weird, but it's good. Yeah. How are you feeling?
I'm ready to go.
Okay. So you feel ready. Both of you, well, you both feel ready.
Yeah.
We all feel ready and excited. At least that's the common thing. So then, and you said empowered. So I love that because in this day and age, we all need to feel empowered. So what makes you feel empowered, Lennon, and how do you stay empowered?
I actually have had quite the year of having to be empowered. There has been a lot that we've kind of gone through together as a family. And for me in my professional life as well, a lot of most recently hardships in my professional world. And it was really hard to be empowered because people really go out of their way to take power away from people that threaten them. And I've experienced that, as I'm sure a lot of people have. And the funny answer to this is I watch Michelle Obama videos and then I'm like ready to take on the world. But the real answer is you don't always feel empowered. You feel weak at times. You feel sad that someone has been able to take your power away. And it's just about constantly reminding yourself of why you're doing what you're doing. And then it's very easy to empower yourself to do it. When you have a why, the how becomes more clear. And that's been something that's really been true for me in all of the professional endeavors I've been doing recently.
I love that. I mean, I even have behind this computer, I have a picture of, well, there's one up, but there's about 3 young boys that killed themselves for being gay when they were bullied. So I keep that up around in my office to kind of, like you just said, remind me of why I'm doing this when I feel like when I'm making it about me, really at the end of the day, when it's like I'm focusing on myself and this really isn't about me. And this is even all these interviews I've been doing are really about giving you all a voice. How do you stay ready? Because you said ready. How do you stay ready in this day and age with this fierce daughter of yours, 2 daughters, and, being Gina in Phoenix, Arizona, looking the way you do? How do you stay ready?
How do I stay ready? Well, I'm off of all my social media. So that's been really good. So I'm not constantly like,
it's good to know, I like that. I want that real, those are real answers. This isn't 2011. This is 2023. So people are definitely making those choices now.
Yeah. I've deleted everything, except for I follow things that she does and that Mia does, but that's it. And I don't scroll or anything. Everything else is deleted. I don't have like any stuff. So I think that's best for my mental health, because I think it's really easy to compare yourself to other people or worry about what other people are doing and what you're not doing. You know, all the things that make us a little what's the word, like
Uneasy.
Yeah, uneasy,
anxious.
Yeah. So I've given up that side of my life, and just looking at other people and scrolling and what do I have, what don't I have, and I've just let it all go.
That's one. And I've noticed a huge difference in the way that my mom carries herself ever since she did get off social media. She was like, you know, she's a nosy woman. She's like wanting to know what everyone's doing. And I think that it exhausted her. And I would say that is how you stay ready. And like my mom is a workout queen these days. She found her outlet and she lives her life for herself. And I think that's what's different about you now. It's just like, you don't, like, we don't live here anymore. Mia lives in New York. I live in LA. You know, my dad and my mom got back together after a divorce, and now they are just very happy, and they have jobs. They live their lives, and it's really nice to see. As I get older, I actively choose to travel home so that I don't have to care for myself anymore. And I have a pantry full of food, and like the things that parents do is insane. And I'm not even just being a suck up to her. Like, I don't need to do that anymore, but I don't know how you did all that.
I don't know how you did all that.
It was honestly insane. She's like on camera 1 week and then driving 300 miles a week for, if not more, for us to be in school and oh God, the money. It was chaos.
It was a shit show. I mean, it really was a shit show. But I mean, just taking myself away from all that and just getting a little bit more grounded in my life is what keeps me ready. That's the short.
And you know what, Lennon? I bet you your mom would agree with this too. She did it for you.
Yeah. I mean, you can't not, you know, you see somebody who's so focused on something and you can't not.
Well, I will say for you can't not. I know plenty of parents that are living through their children and like do it for themselves. And there is a world where you didn't have to do that. You could have said, hey, we're not going to sell our house and move across the state of Arizona so you can go to the school that you won't get bullied at.
It's your kid's passion. When your kid has a passion, I cannot ignore it. You know what I mean? Like, you have to dive into that, I think.
And both of you were always so, I mean, you still are, but I remember that. I think it was like, one, it was calming because you were from Dance Connection. And then 2, it was calming because you were from Arizona.
Yeah.
And then 3, you just both had that. And then little Lennon back then, I identified with little Lennon back then, remembering myself at that age. So that was meaningful. And then you were and R were always so sweet and kind of, I don't want to say naive, Gina, but maybe just kind of a watcher, you know, and kind of sitting back, which is like kind of a good place to be, you know, because then you're not as affected for your mental health. It's a good place to be. I stand by that.
I think too, one of my regrets, if we go there for the day, one of my regrets about being on Dance Moms was that I was so worried about my reputation, which is wild to think at 12 years old or 13, at 13 years old, that I was worried about how I was going to be perceived. And I told her all the time, like, dress like this and shut your mouth. Like, don't don't cause a scene. If a teacher's yelling at me, let me fend for myself. Like,
You were the dance mom. You were the dance mom, Lennon.
I was like, don't get involved. Like, don't get involved. But I wish I would have said, do whatever the hell you want, because you
let her rip.
It would have been way more fun. So I think,
Lennon, since you already are giving me dance mom vibes, do you want kids?
Yeah, I do. It's like I would say I feel like my purpose in life, my why.
One of your purposes. You have a lot of purposes.
I was saying earlier, when you have your why, the how becomes more clear. And my why has always been, it started a couple years ago, was for my younger self. And then it was for young kids. And then now is for just kids. And the job I'm in now, which we can talk about later, is directly benefiting the lives of so many children that don't have voices for themselves to advocate for themselves. And so I would say my ethos, my why is always kids, whether they're my own or not. And
but if you want kids,
I really want kids if this world can get its shit together. I would say it's kind of a common thing among people who are in my generation. I'm Gen Z, and we understand the hardships of bringing kids into this world. And right now, I'm not super impressed with at least the US. And I've been saying a lot actually this week that, like, if I have kids, I want to move to Canada or I want to move somewhere else, because right now I don't think I could send my kid to school. I don't think I could do a lot of the things that I want to do because
it's scary.
It's scary. And that's a real thing. And so to everyone who is a parent to young kids, I applaud you, and I hope you're their biggest advocate because they need it right now. I mean, even in the news right now, the attorneys general from multiple states are suing Meta, who owns Instagram and Facebook and Threads, pretty much all of social media, and they're suing them for addictive features on their apps. And that's true. There's there's a joke, like, are you an iPad kid? But like, how many kids do you see that are just like glued into their iPads? So considering I just went on like a 3-minute rant about kids, I think you can tell the answer is yes, I'm passionate about kids, but whether or not I end up actually having them is a question. I did freeze my sperm because as a trans woman, when you start transitioning, you become infertile, most likely. Not everyone, but some people do. And I didn't want to lose that opportunity. So I froze my sperm at 21.
That's amazing. I didn't know that. And I didn't even know that was done. So, I mean, that's pretty amazing. I didn't.
Remember when you got home from doing that? Dad goes, how'd it go?
And what did I say?
How do you think it went? I had to go in a little room by myself.
It's really weird. Those rooms are eerie. That's a funny story, actually.
No, you don't.
No, I'm not telling I went to this fertility clinic in Scottsdale, Arizona. It was during COVID. I was home. And these people just had no idea what a trans woman was. Like, I swear to God, I was like an animal to them. And like, not even like in a rude way. They just had never seen it before. So they were like, well, we need a signatory of the person who's going to, like, who are you going to give this to? And where's your wife or who's your partner? And I just was like, the amount of questions that you're asking me is giving me an anxiety attack. I'm already here to masturbate.
I got to perform.
Like, I have to perform.
Can they legally ask?
Yeah, they
legally ask you?
Well, because it's on all the forms. Like, all the forms systematically are like because when you think about donating sperm, it's like usually for an IVF or like you're selling, like, it's just, they hadn't ever had a trans patient before. And so I looked at the lady in the face, this poor woman. I said, I'm going to leave and I'm going to come back in about 30 seconds and we're going to try this all again and you're going to do better. And she did. So
good for you.
Then I finished in a cup and came home.
Oh my God. And it went great.
Is there anything you want to say that you feel you've needed to get off your chest or use your voice
I don't regret doing it. I feel like if anything, and the only reason I ever agreed to do it was because I wanted to give her a chance to maybe do big things in life. She has a platform now, so she can make a difference. So I definitely don't regret it because I love that for her. Like she can make a difference and be a voice. So, you know, it's kind of like weighing
And
it.
that's, I think, what is kind of, move on, go a little forward, is that, I mean, a makeup line, great. The platform Lennon's doing, super meaningful.
I agree. I agree.
That is what I think is the change in the dance competition world, is they're trying to, dance it's a form of art. There's a lot of meaning in it, ballet, company work, jazz. I mean, when you go to the root of it, what it's supposed to do to people, dance competitions, I think it's more product of the system of capitalism found a way in the 80s to capitalize on competition and box it up and sell it to America. There's not that many, there might be more now, but it's one of the first nations to do that with competitive dance for kids.
Yeah.
It's not a global thing. It's more of an American thing. So I think what we're seeing now, which is exciting and hard, is that struggle from meaningless to meaningful, in the sense of, how do we keep this world of dance conventions and dance competitions meaningful and still have makeup and rhinestones and
booty short
costumes? So it's a struggle. I think it's similar to USA Gymnastics. I say that for sure. USA Gymnastics they have a governing board who didn't do a great job either. But, dance competitions, there's no governing board. There's no board of people that are there to advocate for the kids and of these kids that are competing. And so, say that again.
It's the dance moms. It's the dance moms.
And some dance dads, as we've all seen. But also, I will actually push back on that and say, dance moms just want to win. So if you change the system that meaningful things win, they will follow that system. So it's really the system of the conventions, the dance competitions, and the teachers, because at the end of the day, if they say, you're wearing too much makeup, they're going to take off 10 points. The dance mom would be like, take it off, because they want their child to win. So that's, so about advocating, I said, for, kids in these dance competitions. And you grew up in dance competitions, Lennon. I know that. How old were you when you first started competing?
I started competing when I was 10.
And what did you love about it?
I loved a lot.
Everything.
Yeah, I loved a lot about it. It was enamoring to me. The dance competition industry was enamoring. It was the lights, the attention, the way that you look up to these teachers they were the biggest stars in the world to me. As a 24-year-old, thinking back that the people I was idolizing so much were younger or the same age as I am now, it blows my mind how much influence they had on at least me and the people that I was surrounded by. And I think, to your point earlier, it is up to the competitions to hire and vet good people and make sure they're qualified to do what they're doing. I think there's such a lack of due diligence in the dance industry. It's not, tech, or it's not these other big industries that have these structures. We've kind of built them ourselves, and there's good in that. There's passion in it, but there's also other parts of it that can be really scary. Where is any sort of accountability? Where is the respect for young kids and their growth and their mental health? And don't get me wrong, there are such incredible teachers out there. I had some of the best convention teachers that are just amazing. Chris Jacobson comes to mind. Jen Freeman comes to mind. These teachers that are good people and care about what they're doing and understand like what they give these kids. And I just think that there needs to be more checks. And I don't know if I would let my kid do what I did growing up. And that's no shame on my mom. She had no idea, but it's a shame on the people who were in charge that let that happen. But yeah, it's just about hiring good people and making sure they're good people, because I think as we all can understand these days is there's a lot of assholes out there. And so we gotta stop. There is. It's wild. They're everywhere.
Are those teachers that you love still teaching?
The
Chris
teachers,
Jacobson, I think they're still on circuit.
Yeah. The teachers I love are still on circuit. A lot of them are at Adrenaline and Revive. Personally, I found that to be the least toxic of the convention touring circuits that I've ever participated in. And I met a lot of
Which two?
Adrenaline and Revive.
Okay. Yeah, I think I've been to Adrenaline once. So this is what I'll tell you. And this is collectively. I think this is the world collectively. Dance competitions are just a reflection of our world, believe it or not, like everything is. Business as usual. It's business as usual because I'm there. They put out the email. They post. They say all the right things, and you look back and you see the person that exactly, Gina. Yeah, the money thing. So what I do, I'm happy that those two are teaching still. There's these people that are in power. I mean, you're in politics too. And that make these choices, and they put out these things that, yes, we're for the transgender community. We're for the gay community. Sorry, we say we're sorry. But then they're still in those positions of power when they helped that system. So what I always say is, let someone else lead. Let these people be in power. Let them run the convention. Let them own the convention. Let them be consultants on dance shows. Rather than, okay, we're sorry, but these people are still going to be in place that helped create that. It's not to, and my whole thing is what I feel is it's that need for power, and they don't want to give up their power. Maybe money, but it's, let someone else have a chance. There's so many good teachers out there. There's so many good conventions out there. There's so many good people out there. Let them be in those positions. How do we keep them safe for the gay community and the transgender community when there's dance studios whose owners are transphobic and are homophobic, because it's a melting pot for all Americans? Anyone?
I mean, I have thoughts. I always have thoughts. I think what's sticking out to me is these studios are reflections of the communities that they're a part of. And if you are going to be a dance teacher that continuously does the wrong thing, then you shouldn't be invited to these competitions. I would say that in the same way that refs kick out screaming parents or coaches that are rude and like you see it all. I've been watching the World Series. I've been home this week. I've been to a lot of my cousin's football games. I saw like some coaches get real riled up and then they're kicked out. So my thought is, if these companies are really saying what they're saying and are doing and really care about the values that they are putting these statements out, then reject business from people that don't align with your values. It's an agreement. When
Be
you
accountable for your platform. Be accountable for your platform. The FIG for gymnastics does that. I mean, the Russians are not allowed. They haven't been competing at Worlds or the Olympics since the war started.
Wow.
So they have the best gymnast at times too.
Mm-hmm.
So they are not allowed to compete. So some of these studios are good studios with good dancers. It's money, but it's also talent. Talent can be very confusing. You know, like it's kind of like an idol. Like if someone's super talented, you kind of can be deceived by that and give them an idol. I mean, it is. It's like you're worshiping their talent. So you have to be okay to say no to the talent and no to the money to end suffering, because that's an idol, and idols always create suffering. And for us and for people, I mean, that's something that I definitely believe. And also I do feel, you know, I've said this about, I always bring gymnastics in because I used to be a gymnast. I might have said this before too, and this might go into this next conversation, because I know someone who has transitioned to a young girl now. She's 14. What are they going through on how to compete right now? How the confusion, not for them, but how do I do what I love and still compete? So I always say, you know, the Olympics bring people together. That was the spirit of the Olympics. It really wasn't about the sports. The sport was the dance, was the backdrop. So dance competitions bring people together for us to get to know each other, and dance is the dance backdrop. Unfortunately, winning has become the main priority. Ego, superiority. So that's taken a back. But what are your thoughts and feelings? And what is this little girl going through right now, Lennon, that has transitioned at a young age, that wants to compete?
I mean, there's so much.
There's a lot with that.
There's so much with that. I mean, this is where I have a hard time, to be honest. Like, this hits like a hard part of the conversation, because I often want to be a beam of light and an inspiration and someone who tells people to push the boundaries and do what you got to do and use your voice. And I still firmly believe in all of that. But I think that it's ignorant to scream that from the rooftops, because it's not always possible. It's just not, you know, sometimes it's not safe to be who you are, and safety is a priority. I'm not saying it's a good thing or it's something that we shouldn't be working to actively change, but you know, I'm not going to sit here and pretend to know all of the circumstances of this 14-year-old girl and what she's going through. And I can't, because I don't know if it's safe for her to do that. I don't know if she has the mental capacity to be fighting battles every day. I personally had quite the stamina for fighting battles. And I don't know why. I don't know. There's no rhyme or reason. My mom didn't like necessarily teach me to be a rebel. Like, it was just it was just something that I had. And I'm grateful for it, because it opened the pathway. And for specifically what I'm thinking about is my time at USC and in the dance program there. Like, I felt capable of pushing the boundaries, and I felt capable of being loud, and I felt safe to do that. And so I did. And I hear all the time from younger students that have come up after me, oh, you changed this program and then I'm able to do this now. And so, you know, I'd look at that little girl, the 14-year-old girl, and say, it's not your job to fix this. You know, it's not. and don't let anyone tell you it is. But if you feel inspired to keep pushing and you feel like you've got it in you, that's the fight that so many advocates before us had to tap into and live. And so there's just a double-edged sword of like, I have such a hard time, and I think it's a bigger conversation now of why is it up to the transgender 14-year-old to change the dance industry? Like, it should be the entire.
Well, so what would you say? What would you say then to, because it's not up to her. What would you say to the dance competition people who run it and conventions? How should they advocate for her and support her in competing at their events?
Shape
what
up.
do they need to change, and how can they do it?
My short answer is for them to shape up and get their shit together. But my answer, my polished answer, I would say, is more of just do your research, talk to people, converse with people that do this in the field. Like it is their job to make their events. Actually, I'll say it doesn't have to be. If they want their event to be transphobic, fine, I'm not going. But if they're going to be a place for everyone, then they need to do the due diligence. They need to have conversations. They need to research. They need to make changes. They need to invest money, and they need to hold themselves accountable for those changes. And that's what the bottom line is. I know so many of these convention teachers and the people that are at the top of their convention circuits, and I do this for a living. I volunteer to be a public facing trans woman. I volunteer to do consulting work, and I've done it before. I've worked with New York City Ballet and Pacific Northwest Ballet, Miami City Ballet. I've worked with these directors before to make these changes that need to happen. And so find people. I'm not the only one doing it.
I love that. I'm having a proud dance dad moment. I didn't know you worked with all those amazing companies.
Yeah, a lot of that.
Changing the
and what did you? Are they embracing the transgender community into their dance companies? Have they hired more transgender men and women?
I would say the system hasn't been adapted enough to where there are enough transgender people that have gotten to that level yet. Usually the system breaks them down and they don't make it that far. But someone who I am just such a fan of is Ashton Edwards. She is, I hope I'm using the right pronouns. I'll use they, them pronouns for now. But Ashton Edwards, they're just such an amazing ballerina. They're in Pacific Northwest, or at least they were the most recent time I followed up with them. And that's someone I really am inspired by. They put on the tutu and they learn the variations. They learned the point work, and they're freaking phenomenal. One of the best ballerinas, gender completely separate than I've seen in our generation. And that's at Pacific Northwest Ballet, which is a very dominant ballet company in the US. And some of these other directors that I've had a chance to talk to. So the person who kind of gave me this platform was Jody Gates, who at the time that I was at USC, she was the vice dean and director. And she was really, really honestly tentative at first. She comes from the Joffrey Ballet School. She worked with William Forsythe, these well-known staples in ballet, and she was like, I don't know about that. And then I kept pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing, and then finally she was like, I get it, actually. And she was one of my fiercest advocates, and she put me in those rooms with those people, made those connections for me. And a lot of these ballet directors feel really, really passionate about making their schools and their companies better. They just don't know how. But to their defense, they found someone who did know how, and they hired me and they paid me money, and I taught them what I knew. And I haven't followed up. I haven't seen these directors in a while since COVID. I haven't worked with New York City Ballet in probably a year and a half now, but I hope they took some of what I said. I hope that it changed something, but it's about investing time and money. You've got to put your money where your mouth is. It's not something that happens overnight. Like, it's same thing with
And
all the.
what's so interesting to me is that these are communities that are supposed to be inclusive and open and accepting of the gay community. They are at times. I don't see a lot of male duets in ballet companies. I don't. So I can't really say they're even super supportive of that in their work or the transgender community. So it makes me sad because I feel sad because it shows you again, they have to be willing to lose money. That's how I look at it. I'm going to say they're not. Say that again.
I was going to say I have two thoughts. One, it's not necessarily losing. Yeah, well, because sometimes you'll deter an audience. Okay, you're right there. It is you have to be willing to put your money where your mouth is, and that sometimes you will lose some of it. I hear a lot about one of the conversations I had. I wasn't planning on going here, but I'll go there now. Is I worked with someone who was a part of the Balanchine Trust, and she was really supportive, and she was saying, I'm trying really hard to get the Balanchine Trust and the board to accept these types of people and let multiple genders perform these roles. Doesn't matter. It's what you're trained in. If you're good enough, you do it. It's not about what gender you are. And she expressed that there was a lot of conflict there, and it did boil down to the fact that it was either we were allowed to do the rep this is at USC, we were allowed to do it, or we weren't. And so those are the types of people we need, or the people that are willing to, that are like inside. I've been talking a lot in my new job about an inside game versus an outside game. You need the people that are on the outside that are being loud and that are advocating and pushing, but you really need the people that are on the inside that have a seat at the table, that are willing to jeopardize their seat at the table. And I think the reason you feel that these places aren't supportive of, these minority communities or communities that are marginalized is because they get a taste of it, and they have a seat now, and they have the power, and they don't want to do anything that's going to risk them losing it. And I have
exactly. Exactly.
That's a really relatable thing, like I get so excited. There were many a times when I was out working with New York City Ballet, for example, I was working with these rep directors, and there were times where I wanted to let certain things go because I was thinking like, oh my gosh, I look up to so many of these directors, and what if I want to work with them one day and they think and then I had to think to myself, no, I had to be willing to lose my spot at the table. And that's really what it's about.
Well, yeah, when you're willing to lose things, you gain them. It's kind of a weird spiritual law. But when you're willing to, it's like when you're willing to not care if you go on a date, all of a sudden all the dates just flourish in.
I experienced
right, Lennon?
Right. I was going to say I'd experienced that too.
No, so now I have a little like heartfelt question, sentimental question. If the company world was more embracive of the transgender community, would you still be dancing?
I don't think you're not dancing because it's not. I think you're not dancing because so many other things are so important right now in your life. Don't you think?
Yeah, I think that's definitely that's really a big part of it. I've always been someone with multiple interests, with multiple passions, and there are more important things in my life right now.
You're an amazing dancer. You dance amazing, and you always have. And so,
I know I'm good. No, it's like I think about
the dance dad in me. There's a dance mom and the dance dad in me. We loved it. And so, do you miss seeing her dance?
Oh yeah,
Gina.
I do.
Well, I am kind of dancing a little bit here and there. I just did a show last month with a company in LA, and it was my first onstage live performance in 3.5 years, I think. Yeah, 3.5 years. March 2020 was the most recent time, and then it was September 2023. And it was really weird, but it was a really queer experience. It was with some really amazing, the whole cast was trans, and it was a really, really cool thing to do. I've also been working commercially. I did a couple of music videos this year and, got to wear the fun outfits, had a pink ponytail and was able to live my little girl fantasy of being in a pop video. And I think that it's not that dance isn't a part of my life. It's that I pick and choose when it's allowed to be, because I've taken my power back a little bit. And I think that that's what's really awesome about my relationship with dance right now is it's a little bit, it's on my terms. And for so long it wasn't, not saying I was forced to do anything, but I was training so hard. And then I was at USC, which is at the time was probably the most difficult dance program anyone could go to. And I was burnt out after, so I had some other things I wanted to do. So I'm kind of, I would say, here and there, but
and I apologize. I do remember seeing pictures of you from the music video. What music video?
There were 2 videos for Tessa Violet. She's a really awesome artist. She was really great to work with. She talk about a safe set, talk about an artist who puts their money where their mouth is. Tessa Violet. 2 transgender
Love that. See?
And I don't even think she knew we were trans when she hired us. It was just an amazing experience. But I did cut you off earlier.
It's pretty. No, I think it's pretty simple. You can either do this or do that. I think where people go is they try and appeal to both right now. And that's just creating chaos because that's not a fun place to be in. So you just got to do it. You got to put people like Lennon in charge at the conventions or hire. I'm serious.
Yeah.
I recently had someone reach out to me about a film they did, and it was a gay film, and it didn't do that well, and they were blaming it that straight people didn't go see it, and I was like, I didn't go see it. I don't want to go see it because one, I didn't see anyone like me in it, even as a gay man. And so here's the thing. I'll even push back and say, yeah, they reached out and wanted me to, quote unquote, pick my brain. Yeah, no.
We get that.
You want to hire me? You want to hire me as the producer? Bring me on. And that's what I think it is. It's not at the table anymore. It's put them in charge. Put transgender women and men as directors, heads of studios, heads of dance companies, head of dance conventions, as producers on television shows. There is, but again, to do that, people are going to have to give up their power. So how is your dancing? How is your experience as little Lennon dancing different from womanly Lennon?
Well, one thing that's different is I have boobs now. It's a whole different world with this happening. And it was funny because my very first show on stage in 3.5 years, my strap snapped and I had to do the first 30 minutes of the show praying that my nipple wouldn't come out. But then afterwards, I thought to myself, I kind of wish it did. I paid a lot of money for these. So I just think it's funny, we're taught to be ashamed of our bodies and it's a whole other spiral. But that's my funny answer. But I would say what it's like dancing now is it's really freeing. I would say it was really freeing and fun when I was little. And then now as an adult, it's really free and fun again. But that middle area, I don't blame anyone. I really don't, wholeheartedly. But I was there were a lot of times where I was miserable.
Like 13, 14, 15.
Yeah, where I just didn't know who I was, and I was cared so much about everything, and I was like cutting out certain types of food and just it's too much. So I mean, I tell kids now, enjoy it all, and dance should be fun, and hard work should be fun. It shouldn't be traumatizing, and lean into teachers like John, little plug there. I'm sure he's taking inquiries. Hire John. It's just one of those things where, I wish I would have let up on myself in that interim, because I think that's when it wasn't as fun. But it's fun now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good. I can't wait to see you dance. Invite me to your next show.
We'll see when it is. I right now I don't have any plans, so we'll see.
Gina, how was there's obviously back to like the immense pushback and boldness that Lennon has to be who she is. Yeah. So how did your family and friends react being a transgender woman? How did they react?
I feel like on the surface, most everybody was very supportive. If you dug a little deeper with some family and friends, you realized it was okay because it was my kid, like, oh, you're so supportive. That's so great. It's so great. But as long as it wasn't in their family or their child, I think that many people in my family could do better as far as supporting her all around in the political world, and just in everyday life. But for the most part, we've had a pretty positive experience. But I think also because...
What would you say to those moms that out there that are in, maybe not in your position now, but were in your position in the beginning stages of Lennon coming to you with all of this? And what would we say to them? Maybe the ones that aren't getting around supportive people, family and friends. What would you say to them, those moms?
So, I mean, first of all, let's be clear. Everything I learned about Lennon was on social media. So, like, when she came out of the closet, it's because she posted. When she changed her name to Lennon, it's because suddenly on my Hulu, it was Lennon. And I'm like, who the frick is Lennon? Like, what? Did you change your name? So she didn't, like, sit down and say, Mom, we need to have a talk, I'm gay, I'm non-binary, I'm changing my name to Lennon. Like, I just found out like everybody else. I even found out the trans thing through the trans video on TikTok. I'm like, oh, she came out as trans. Okay, I love you. Great. I mean, you never sat down with me and told me things. I think she just expected that I kind of knew and just was like, yeah, she'll catch on. But I do.
Did you know?
I mean, yeah. I mean, I always thought like, oh, maybe she's this, maybe she's that or whatever. And then she would confirm it and we'd move on. But again, never because she sat down and said, Mom, we got to talk. It was always on social media or some grandiose, I'm trans video. And I'm like, oh, suddenly you're on Entertainment Tonight and Vogue and this and that. And I'm like, oh, my kid, look, she's coming out. Yeah. So
I think she's underselling the part of all that.
Yes, she is.
Oh no, it's true.
She's underselling her reaction to you. She's underselling that completely.
I was going to say what she's underselling is how much she listened and how much she learned. She had no idea about any of this before having me. And
yeah,
I think something that I didn't realize until now, we've never talked about this, but I guess when I was really young, she brought me to a psychologist because I was dressing up like a girl at the time, and she was like really worried about she didn't know what to do.
What do you do with it?
Yeah. What do I do? And she brought me to a psychologist. Psychologist told her, she's probably going to be gay and just let it be. It's not a big deal at all. And I think,
or she said you might cross dress.
Yeah. And so I think that's just an example of like, more people need to know. And if you're a psychologist or a therapist or any healthcare professional, you need to do your due diligence. But
20 years ago.
That's 20 years ago. And that's also not the conversation I feel like having right now. But what I do want to say is every time I would explain to her, here's why I feel this way, or here's why in politics it's important that you're voting this way. Here's why. She really listened and she read books and she followed social media accounts that would teach her things. And I think there is a benefit to that stuff. And I think that you were such a good listener and you've really turned into an insane advocate and an insane, like my mom actually embodies the definition of ally. And I feel like so many people don't and say they do, but she really is, because she's learned and she advocates on my behalf, on the behalf of all trans kids, not just me.
Oh yeah.
And she puts her money where her mouth is. And she's had relationships in her life fall apart because of it. And I just think that can't go unsaid. You're a great listener. So listen to your kid.
What I would tell parents of children that maybe they think are gay or trans or whatever, like it's, I would love to go around and speak to high schoolers or middle schoolers or whatever. It's not hard. You listen to your kid, however your kid is feeling, you support that, and you make sure everyone that surrounds them supports that. And it's not that hard to be okay with it, because I think parents and people in these, children's families make it about them. Oh my gosh, I'm going to have a gay kid. Oh my God. Oh my God. Or I'm going to have a trans child. Oh, what's this look about me? And, Aunt Betty's going to be so upset or whatever. Like, it's not about you. It's about your kid. So take the pressure off yourself and just say, this is where we're at. I'm going to support you and I love you. And it's not that hard. It makes me crazy. It's not that hard.
It's different. It's not that hard. It's extremely different. And who made you so bold, Gina? Because that's really bold, especially
it's easy
being who you are and who you live.
I'm
sorry?
It's easier that way, because I personally know a couple that has a trans child or trans adult. I think she's 21. And they are struggling, and their marriage is struggling, and dad is trying to come to terms with the fact that, he now has a trans daughter. Yeah, it's different, and it's a lot to think about, but how much easier is it to have your child in your life and happy and whole? I don't ever want a suicidal child. And I don't ever want to think, gosh, I wish I would have done better and my child would still be here. You know what I mean? Like, that's not worth it to me. So if that's what your child's bringing to the table, support your child 100%. And really, I promise it's not that hard, especially when they feel whole, because you have children and you think, I want my babies, my toddlers, my children, my grown adult children to be whole. That's all you want in your life, is for your kids to be whole and happy. So if it just takes you saying, okay, if this is how you feel, this is where we're at, this is what we'll do. It's so much easier than fighting it and worrying about yourself, about, oh my gosh, what does this do to me? It's so much easier.
I love that you said, first of all, I love that you're giving me like such mom feelings right now, hearing that.
It's so much easier. It's not hard.
But I love that it is so much easier. It's because you didn't say, oh, it's hard or because it's different. No, it's easier. And I think people, it's good to hear that because you're living it and you're saying that it's easier. So what do you have to say to continue those mom vibes to the kids right now whose parents aren't accepting them and who are aggressively not accepting them and who are feeling a lot of suffering?
I don't even know. That's why I would like to go around and like, I would love to have an open phone number. Like, call me, email me if you need help in figuring this out with your kid. Because I don't know how else to help parents accept who their child is. It's never about how to fix
but
the
this
child.
is the truth of it. Some parents may never. Some of those parents won't. So that's what I'm saying. The ones that they won't, what do you have to say to them?
Don't have kids.
Or call me.
No, to the kids, not to the.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
You mean to the kids? Oh,
Yeah, to the kids that are needing, they want to hear that.
Find an ally.
That it's okay. What do you
find an ally anywhere you can? I mean, I've had kids sit in my chair when I'm cutting hair, and I know something's up. And I try to be a really super safe space by bringing Lennon up, even when she was in her gay phase. Oh, I have a gay child, whatever. And just trying to make it open. Like, oh gosh, these kids need to find an ally. I don't even know what else to say to them, because if they
Is
don't,
there a place, Lennon, that where they can go to find an ally?
even in their family, even if they think there's someone in their family that would accept it more so, a cousin or an aunt or somebody that they feel safe around. But I don't know, like,
I mean,
a friend.
Actually, I think that's good advice. I think that's good advice because I never, as I got older, I realized that, but I wanted my parents to accept it so bad. That was my main, I was obsessed with it when I wasn't even looking at family members or close friends of mine who were there to save me already. So I know you have to leave soon too, though. So on that, I want to just to kind of finish it up. What are you're doing the, talk about your work with the HEAT initiative, Lennon.
Oof. I feel so, I mean, okay.
Give it in a nutshell.
Yeah, I was like, I don't know where to go from here, but okay. So lately I kind of alluded earlier, I've been doing a lot of stuff for kids. And so I'm currently a campaign and partnerships manager for a nonprofit called HEAT Initiative. And over at HEAT, we are pressuring leading tech companies to eradicate and remove and report child sexual abuse images and videos off of their platforms. There's a lot of negligence among leading tech companies. I mentioned the lawsuit brought to Meta earlier, but I'm currently managing our current campaign is a corporate pressure campaign against Apple. We are not running a smear campaign. I'm on an Apple computer. I have an iPhone. It's more of just holding them accountable for what they should be doing, which is not having child sexual abuse images and videos on iCloud. And that is currently something that they allow, and they don't want the world to know that. And it's really crazy. I would say the last 6 months I've been working. I was a consultant for a while, but moved in-house recently. But, I've been working on this issue for 6 months now, and I know things that I don't want to know. And I don't want anybody else to know, but just know that it's not good. And these tech companies have a responsibility to eradicate and report this and fix their platforms and develop technology that protects these kids. And there's this huge conversation going about it and going around of privacy. And, you know, it's essentially what happened was in 2021, Apple released this technology that detected known child sexual abuse images and videos on iCloud, and it would and there was a reporting mechanism that they created, and it was done in a privacy forward way. It was done where there was no scanning involved. There was none of that. It was literally matching. It was detection. It worked like a stoplight camera. Like your own photos only taken if you're breaking the law, kind of type of software and technology. But when they released it, they led with the how, and like all this technology of how, and it confused people, and the privacy lobby and the privacy absolutists pressured Apple, and then Apple silently rolled back this technology and didn't implement it. And what we're finding now is that a lot of parents think that Apple is doing this, and they're just not. And it's really disheartening. It can impact real lives. There's like, you know, an example I use, and I won't give you details, don't worry, is if there was this young child who was a victim of child sexual abuse and was being filmed, and their imagery was being uploaded and shared on the dark web and things like that. Some of this abuse could stop a lot quicker if there was this detection in iCloud, because when these images and videos are traded or found in these people's libraries, they would be reported and law enforcement would take care of it. But what happens now is there's these people with thousands, and I'm talking thousands of images and videos of, sorry to be crass, of child rape that aren't being reported or being taken down because it's circulating freely on iCloud. There's no security features. And the argument so often becomes, well, you know, what about my data, my privacy? We're in this era of data privacy, which is important. To be clear, data privacy is important. I'm not saying it's not, but a video of a 3-year-old being raped is not your private data. So until Apple answers why they think it's personal data and why that content is personal data, I have a job. So me and the CEO and this badass team of women are really working within the field. You know, this is a big issue. We work with multiple organizations. We're in conversation with them. We're not doing this in a silo. We're funded by some really amazing people, and that's that. And that's what I'm working on. And it's going to take probably multiple years to get this done. Apple is a major company, but we're here to stay. So it's going to be a good old time.
How do we support it? How do we support the initiative?
Of course, I would say right now the best way to get involved is to go to our website, which is heatinitiative.org. And
say that one more time. Say that one more time. You broke up.
The website is heatinitiative.org. And you can go there to learn about our current campaign and sign up for our email list that is not very active. We're not in your inbox every minute of every day. And we're hoping to keep our supporters informed and in what they can do to continue pushing these companies to do the right thing. So tell your friends, talk about it with your kids, warn them, you know, follow all these accounts that are talking about it, read the news. But it's nothing's going to change for this situation until Apple realizes that this is something the public wants. And we did research, we did due diligence, we did a poll through a very esteemed researcher, and 90% of Americans think this should happen. So why isn't it?
Of course. I mean, yeah, to help end suffering and to, it's not about freedom. That's what people, I mean, people will say, you know, privacy is about, it has nothing, you know, hate is, we don't live in a free country where you can hate. And we don't live in a free country where you can have images like that of young kids and just expect that it's protected. Oh, well, I mean,
yeah, that's a heavy
no,
one.
I mean, it's amazing. It's just, it's, I mean, that is tied to the dance competition world too. You know, I was just at a dance competition in May, and there was a guy got kicked out for being in the room because he did not have a band. I don't even think he was asking little girls for their number for his daughter. And, you know, it's horrible, but we can't just put pink paint over it and put a little message out, you know, especially not for, maybe that's why you feel sad for the people. That's why you say don't have kids, because that's kind of all that we do these days, is rather than really try and make a change. So I know that you are definitely doing that with a lot of the stuff you're doing, Lennon. And Gina, you, by what you said, I know comforted a lot of people, comforted me. I definitely know that for sure. And before we go, I wanted to ask, what's the boldest thing you've done, Lennon? And in one sentence.
I mean,
I quit my job because I didn't want to be there anymore.
Perfect. That's bold. Quit your job. Just kidding.
Yeah, everyone quit your job.
Yeah. That's a really hard question.
Wait, isn't that in Break Your? That's in the holiday song.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, Gina, what's the fiercest thing you've done?
I don't know.
Oh, she's I am me because of her. So, like,
I saved a dog from the street.
I mean, Lennon was the fiercest thing you did.
That's true.
Yeah.
She saves a lot of dogs. She's like an avid dog saver.
Yeah,
like
I donate all my money to dogs that are on the euthanasia list. That's my bold thing. I don't know.
Oh, that's pretty fierce. The boldest thing I've done is start this podcast.
There you go. Good.
Congratulations.
Yes.
Wait, look at that. That's my Junior Mr. Dance of America trophy.
Oh.
Like that? I know. Still in it. I just thought, I know you would appreciate that. You know, there's going to be other people on here who aren't from the dance competition world, so they won't care about my trophy from 1992. But I know.
I love your trophy.
I know Lennon does. And I am a little sad we didn't get to talk about the amazing Lori Waddell, but, you know.
Oh, Lori.
Lori is.
Yeah, she's another one that is a great advocator who helped me a lot to be myself and created a safe space to explore and just be without any judgment, which was weird at times because I was like, why isn't she judging me? Because other people are judging me.
This was weird.
It was a little like, yeah, like, why aren't you carrying that? This boy in our class is putting lip gloss on at this time, you know, but no, you know,
love her.
I love that those are other teachers out there that are great, and her being, and talk about being bold, doing that in Scottsdale, Arizona. So shout out to Lori Waddell.
I'll say this, Lori, I owe my life to you.
Yes.
Right after my mom and my dad, there's
yes.
Lori.
Yes.
So yeah, I love her. She's great.
All right. Well, thank you so much. I love you both, and let me know if you need anything.
You too, John. Mwah.
Thank you so much for listening to Dance Dad with John Corella. Thank you to everyone at Hivecast for all that you do. And if this episode meant something to you, please share it and subscribe. Also, you can follow Dance Dad with John Corella on all platforms. But most importantly, remember to be bold and be fierce.